Wow,
All
is that
right.
a new opening?
That's the new opening. We got we continue to make strides with our intros, I think. So hopefully that's a good one. And Greg, Ruby, it's great to be joined by y'all. We see people coming into the chat, and you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Greg's Twitter, and you can find us on Greg's LinkedIn. So wherever you're joining from today, we're happy to have you. And welcome to another episode of Immigration Legal Tech Conversations. My name is Ian Schiller. And Immigration Legal Tech Conversations is presented by Visa Law AI, which is immigration intelligence you can trust. And during Immigration Legal Tech Conversations, we explore the evolving landscape of legal technology and dissect innovative applications thereof. And today, we're really excited to be joined by Ruby Powers. Ruby is an immigration attorney with nearly 17 years of experience and is one of only about 200 attorneys, correct me if I'm wrong about this, Ruby, who are board certified in immigration and nationality law by the Texas Board of Legal Specialization. And you're also the founder of, your own practice and an immigration law firm where you handle the full spectrum of immigration work. But beyond that, Ruby, you're also deeply focused on how law is practiced. You're the author of 2 books on law practice management, including Power Up Your Practice, which we'll talk about a little bit today, and a law practice management book published by AILA. And you do some teaching and consulting, and you do a lot of other fantastic things in the immigration community. And you bring a rare combination of expertise and systems level strategy mindset that we're really excited to talk about today, and I think is a perfect intersection for immigration law, technology, and where's the practice going? So welcome to the conversation, Ruby, and how are you doing today? How have you managed to get through the winter storms that have rolled through here across the country?
Thanks, Ian, for that warming intro. We've been pretty unscathed here in Houston. I feel a little embarrassed at the moment of our school and everything was canceled today, but I guess we're just erring on the side of caution. So we're thinking about all the people who've lost power and who are under lots of snow and negative degrees.
Closing school when the storm doesn't actually come is a Memphis move. I'm a little impressed that Houston decided to do that.
We do it occasionally. Sometimes they get it wrong and they should have closed, but they didn't. So the pendulum swings back and forth. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah,
absolutely, and it's cold here in Memphis for sure. I know Greg and I are both feeling that. I've had to put on extra sweater just to be in here in my office. So and Greg, you have too. So we're really bundled up. And Greg, I know you've got an event that you're going to in Portugal. Are you still able to make that?
In theory. Nothing's been canceled yet. I got a brother-in-law with a big SUV that can go through anything, and I will make it to the airport. The question is whether the planes are going to be going, but until I'm told otherwise, I'm going.
All right. And Ruby, I know the Texas AILA chapter, you're preparing for your spring event, your spring conference as well, and you just finished up a really wonderful conference that some of the Visa Law team attended.
Thanks for
in Mexico.
sponsoring.
How was that?
The fall was great. We had a law practice management track and a wellness track, and I brought a lot of guest panelists from around the country. And I had really, really great reviews on both tracks. And I've been interviewing some of the people on my podcast because we didn't record the fall conference, but we had a really good intimate group at a really great resort in Mexico. And we're gonna try to replicate some of that in the fall. But for the spring, we're gonna be in San Antonio, April 8, 9, 10 at the Minger Hotel, and the registration information is coming out any minute. But the team's already been planning out all the speakers and the content. It'll be dual track with like advanced, more mid-level business, and then family removal. And so.
Ruby,
yeah.
the Minger Hotel. The only thing I know about that hotel is that
it's haunted. Yeah, I know that's okay. Everyone tells me that, but but we're giving you the authentic downtown San Antonio Riverwalk experience. You can choose what you want to do with that. Okay. So I don't know if you saw your messages, Greg, but I was asking if you wanted to come speak with me on a panel. But
Oh, in Texas? Maybe.
yeah, at that
Okay,
conference.
I may, if there's not a conflict, I'm always
Okay.
game. All right.
I figured. I
Oh,
figured.
fantastic. Fantastic.
And,
Well,
and the fall will be in Santa Fe. Hopefully we'll avoid another haunted hotel, but that, unlike last time when we were in Santa Fe. But anyway, that'll also be a law practice management and wellness. And so we'll get that word out as soon as we can with the dates. It'll likely be in November.
well, that's wonderful. Well, that's something that I know everybody can look forward to, and certainly us on the visa law side will be excited for. Just setting the stage here, we've talked a little about sort of what we're interested in, and Ruby, I would love to learn a little bit more about what you foresee, and maybe when you came out with your book in 2024, I think that you probably didn't even anticipate how much change would maybe happen over the year and 2 years that we're sort of now in. But I am interested if for anybody who's unfamiliar with your book, what is it that you would like them to know, and about the book, and what do you sort of outline, and why is it so valuable for immigration attorneys?
Well, that's a very great multiple part question. So the book is Power Up Your Practice. It's available on Amazon and through ALA. It's 25 chapters. One of them is on technology. I once spoke to Jay Foonberg, who wrote an amazing book about law practice management. And I asked him, why didn't you put anything on technology in your book? And he said, well, because it's always changing. And I said, fair point, but it's still important that it's I feel, in a book about law practice management. And so the way I teed it up in the chapter, in the book, was to give like the framework and the, not necessarily name dropping software, because it's constantly changing. The players of a few years ago, there's companies popping up right and left right now, but it's more about like the different types of tools that you might use. And of course, whole new genres are being created that I probably couldn't even imagine at the time, but I still find it relevant. And then I keep information up to date with other things like my podcast, Power Up Your Practice, where I'm interviewing a lot of people like Greg, and getting like what's late breaking information out there. And then also articles and things I share with the Power Strategy Group, and articles that I write of what's going on. But yeah, I think the premise is that to focus on working on the business, not in the business, is really a big key point. And the more you can leverage the systems, the technology, best practices, the less you have to reinvent the wheel and waste energy and bandwidth, which we really don't. Nobody really has that ability to waste that time and energy anyway.
Yeah, and especially now. I mean, we know just how hard it is for immigration attorneys to stay on top of stuff, and at this very moment. So, from your vantage point, do you feel like over the last decade, what are sort of the changes that have really shaped practice management for lawyers? Where and maybe where do you see it going?
Well, we've seen a huge in the last decade. Well, in the last decade, we had the whole pandemic. So we had that. And there was a big push to being more remote, and paperless. So I feel like the conversations a decade or so ago, like paperless law firm, and then I think after the pandemic, it became a necessity to be as paperless as possible. The virtual assistants, I think, is really a hot topic. And a lot of people have been leaning into that just because of either labor shortage or for economic reasons and flexibility and expertise. Let's see. I think the case management software being on the cloud was so circa like 08 and stuff, but they've been moving more and more into that space. And then AI, as much as it's come out, and I think on that Rogers innovation curve, we had a lot of the innovators. Like I think of Greg as an innovator, and then we had the early adopters. I feel like I'm at the end of the innovator or beginning of the early adopter space. And then I feel like mainstream's starting to get there because it's been out for a few years, but then the people in the innovator are just constantly experimenting, creating new services and reimagining things. And then I also look to like Jordan Furlong and Richard Susskind a lot to like where they see the future practice of law and how more or less a lot of the conversations we've been hearing about and that we have is that a lot of the administrative tasks that took a majority of the attorney's time are going to be eliminated as much as possible in the future, and we'll really be focusing on what's the highest and best use of attorney time, which is usually more the confirming the strategy, adapting and confirming the strategy, conveying that to client, hand holding them through the process and where they're absolutely needed, court representation. But anyway, those are sort of the trends I've seen. There's probably a lot of little things else in there, but I think also a focus on client engagement and client service with the advent of companies like Case Status and Hona. I feel like that's really shown that the legal practice is stepping into the arena of other industries that are putting more of a focus on the customer service.
Yeah, and this is something, Greg, you've identified as well as at least on the as we work through, like for example, with visa law, with drafting and legal research capabilities and the time savings that lawyers are able to take on there. You've said that what the difference is going to be with immigration attorneys who don't have a great personality, because you're going to have to give this white glove service.
That's my go-to quote. My go-to. AI won't replace lawyers. It's going to replace lawyers with bad personalities. No, I mean, it's really, I think it's true. I mean, the idea that, hopefully it will be true that they'll be able to be more of a focus on customer service as more and more time is freed up in the practice, as opposed to just a complete race to the bottom on fees, and that there's still no time at the end of the day for better client service because there's so little profit margin on any of the cases that are being worked. But I'm actually, in our space, more optimistic that I think clients are hiring us largely to do the screening on tech tools, make sure that they're going to assume that the outputs are great that we're working on, but they're hiring us for our counsel, wisdom, and to essentially hold their hands through a very stressful process. That is I think down the road, the technology tools are going to be the table stakes, that that everybody's going to have great tools that produce really solid work in theory. I mean, there could be bad tech tools or lawyers that don't do a good job supervising them. But Ruby, I think you're right that at the end of the day, it's all going to be about the level of service that you provide to clients, and the firms that are not providing that service, even with these tech tools, those are not going to be the survivors.
Yeah, I agree. Like, if you think about all the technology that Amazon uses to us never really have to talk to them to be able to order something and have it delivered, and we know exactly where it is or when it's going to show up. I mean, that's the level of service and knowledge that our clients are expecting us to have. Like, when are you going to file the thing, and what's going to happen next? And and I mean, it's not as easy to distill legal service is the same thing as like getting a package delivered from Amazon, but there are a lot of similarities in terms of like being able to communicate what to expect and what has been done, what's in our hands and what's in the government's hands while we're waiting. But yeah, I agree. I think it's a combination of the firms that aren't prepared to give that level of customer service, and also those who aren't leveraging technology to eliminate a lot of the redundancies and administrative tasks that could be eliminated through AI and technology, won't be able to make it to the next level.
I have a different analogy in the airline analogy on there, because I've seen this discussion a lot with people with loyalty to a particular airline. You have basically, a handful of airlines the experiences are relatively similar, although some might argue that one airline's, this airline's better than that airline. I'm very loyal to Delta Airlines. Ruby, I think you're a Delta flyer also. Or maybe not.
I'm a United.
You're
Yeah.
United. You're in Houston.
Yeah.
You have but one of the things, I'm going to assume that, that the Delta planes are going to get me there in one piece. I'm going to assume that the experiences are going to be relatively similar across the airlines. What makes a difference for Delta is, and I fly them a lot, so I have a status with them, is that phone number that I get. This is the phone number that they give to the very frequent flyers that has no wait on hold. You get a very well-trained, nice person to help you resolve a problem. I used them this morning. And that is the table stakes for an airline, are generally speaking that you have they fly to the places you want. The flights themselves are relatively uneventful on there. But at the end of the day, it's like, I will stick with this one airline because I know that when I have a problem, they solve it, and they treat their frequent flyers really well. In that regard, the upgrades are, not the reason why. I mean, some people actually, that's the big reason they stick with one airline to get the upgrades. For me, it's the phone number and the customer service that I get from the airline by being a frequent flyer with them. And I think that's the way law firms generally, if you want people to send you business over and over again, that's what they have to remember, is the customer service experience that they got. They're not going to, I mean, if you're not doing a good job, if you're using lousy case management systems, or your work quality is not where it needs to be, yeah, they're going to fire you from that point. But let's assume that most of your competitors can deliver on decent work quality and getting the filings right and all that. It's the law firms that respond in a timely manner to emails, take your calls, treat you in a friendly way, afterwards, give you are thinking around corners and giving you advice about not just sort of like whatever you're asking them about, but helping you with the bigger picture. But I think that that's what people keep saying, like, AI is going to replace me on there. That's not replaceable. Even good AI can't solve that problem for you. So that's why I think people should be relatively not afraid of this tech. If anything, it gives you more time to prove that you're good in the service department.
But I think that's a good example, because, like, what would it take for you to switch your brand loyalty? Like, what would it take you to switch your airline? What would it take for you to change? Like, I go to this one gym, but they don't have as many classes anymore. And when I want to go, they're canceling on me. And I'm considering going to this other gym that's like has way more times available at night and the weekend. And, that's the type of thing. I think a lot of times, if they don't feel a connection to you, and that can, then if this other competitor has a lot more availability or perks or whatever, you're going to lose that. I think we're probably mixing a couple of ideas at the same time, but anyway, but it's all related, because if you're using the technology, you provide more opportunities, faster service, whatever, more communication. It might be enough to make someone switch after a while.
Yeah, I mean, if the technology makes the overall customer experience more convenient for your clients as well, that's part of it. Is part of customer service, is to whether the tech is enhancing it, or people feel frustrated because you don't have technology solutions that they've come to expect. Particularly, it's not a vacuum. Immigration lawyer, I mean, clients don't just deal with immigration lawyers. They deal with all kinds of people, all kinds of businesses, and they know what to expect in other businesses as far as those solutions go. So if they're not seeing an immigration, then they chalk that up to a bad user experience. And you can be as polite and nice as you want, but if you don't provide that overall experience that they have come to expect based on being consumers of lots of different kinds of things, then you're going to have a problem.
And I think this connects as well. One of the large, sort of discussion points that we've talked about, Greg, overall is is also the attorney's experience. You know, we have the obviously the customer experience, the client experience, but for that immigration attorney, part of you know, competing on the business side is also being able to scale up at the same time. But, you know, Ruby, I think one of the things that you highlight in your books is it's difficult sometimes to balance that of, you know, being able to run your practice really efficiently, run the business side, and also deal on the immigration side. How do we sort of connect these 2 points and make sure that, you know, you can improve your business, you can improve the client experience, but you can also keep it balanced for you as the immigration attorney?
How do we do that? I was just thinking about that because this last month and a half, I've been really focused on habeas, federal litigation, and adding that as a new service to my practice. I was doing mandamus in federal litigation before, but this is a different thing. And so I've gotten deeper into the practice of law in trying to, but it's been very critical to have the right systems in place. So I'm like constantly like the practice of law, figuring out how to do it, what to do. And then the systems, like, okay, this is who's going to touch it, who are going to assign the cases to, what technology can we leverage so we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I think that, and so I'm truly doing both things at the same time. I think it's making yourself block off time to do the working on the business, and giving yourself the bandwidth to really think there's got to be a more efficient way of doing things. Let's build the infrastructure, and then sort of toggling back and forth between the working in the business and working on the business, and a little bit of both. It depends on how much change you're seeing. Like in the practice of immigration, we're seeing so much change. Like we're more or less, a lot of times there'll be a tweet or a case law or something that gets dropped, and then we have to spend the next week just telling our clients what we think that means. And even though there's no guidance or FAQs or anything, and we're just sort of going blind off intuition and prior experience. So I don't know if immigration is the best one to do a question about that, because it's like, I feel like we've got two tsunamis hitting each other at the same time. We've got AI and tech change, and then we've got immigration constantly reinventing itself every 5 seconds. We don't even, if you sleep, you get behind. We're not allowed to sleep in the practice of immigration right now. But anyway, we're doing the best we can, and I think leaning into how can we do this more efficiently? What's the non-negotiables? How can we best communicate the changes to our clients and best serve them? It's sort of like what we're thinking about on a regular basis.
I mean, I can think of a bunch of ways that technology can help you as far as that task goes, of keeping clients, really well informed in a way that doesn't necessarily bog all the lawyers' time down. So, for example, Ruby, you do podcasts, and we do live. I do a live stream every week where it's just a lot easier to kind of talk about what's happening in the week than to have to necessarily have all those conversations. But there's old-fashioned tech like the mail management software, like Constant Contact and software like that can get the word out quickly. But then you can use AI to help you digest a big policy, to help you write a client alert in a hurry. That's pretty that's going to be pretty on point. There's if you want to set it up as an FAQ or something like that, AI is great for that. I mean, there are a lot of ways that if you're going to have to deal with this massive inflow of information and get it out to your clients, that if you're basically the old-fashioned way where you essentially just have to take it phone call by phone call or email by email, that's going to really make it difficult to get your job done every week as far as actually things that you have to file. So I do think that firms that lean in on using some of this tech for those tasks might find themselves in a better position to be able to balance their workloads.
So we do the newsletter in English and Spanish every other week, and we have a weekly webinar on different in Spanish and English on late-breaking topics. And by doing all that, we try to get the information out so we don't have to have a lot of individual. The announcement about the ban, freeze, whatever, of the individuals from 75 countries on the immigrant, I did have to have a couple of calls for the people who had interviews like
Mhm.
that next week, and we're actually about to get on a plane to their country, and so explaining, the pros and cons and what the thought process. So, but yeah, generally getting a mass information out, and being, and that also builds trust too, because if the clients know that that we're paying attention, we're trying to get the information out right away, then they feel like we've got their back, and they're not having to freak out and message us in reaction. But sometimes there's so many things. And then also I do a lot of like TikTok lives and other videos on social media and try to explain things. But yeah, I mean, we pretty much had to adapt that practice after the first Trump administration, and then more or less have kept it going since then. But the tech has only gotten better since then as well.
And so you mentioned you do you use TikTok, and you've got a podcast, and you're on LinkedIn. Where else are you seeing sort of just a good reach as far as some of these more mass?
Have you abandoned X or Twitter?
Yeah, I never really was big into that. I know you were, but I mean, I have the accounts and stuff. Well, I find that yeah, there's like Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and then there's so many. I was mentioning this to whoever listens to me, but basically I said about 4 or 5 months ago, I felt like no one really knew somebody who was getting detained, but now I feel like everyone knows somebody who's been detained. And so people are reaching out to me on every way they know how to, like, can I help so and so, or this is, so I'm getting messages on LinkedIn, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, the DMs, like text, everywhere. Like I have to watch the Facebook Messenger because sometimes they get hidden in there too,
Mhm.
But yeah, people find us everywhere, but also like even all the videos we've been doing for like a decade or so on YouTube, they've been watching us forever, and then they finally want to call us or need us for something.
And that sounds like just like a really easy step for even if you were a solo practice attorney, it feels like sort of meeting people where they are is one really sort of quick win that you can establish for yourself as far as adding to your arsenal of communication methods and outreach, and even potential business as well.
Yeah, we pretty much record short videos, and then my team slices and dices and puts titles and or subtitles and everything on it, and puts it on all the different platforms. But yeah, the technology has been amazing for especially the marketing department, because you can do so much with all the different tools out there. It's almost like it's so much easier and faster than before.
Are we going to see a Ruby avatar? Have you experimented with Hey any of these tools?
People have floated that idea. I don't know how I feel about it, but
I've tried it. I mean, it's sort of been. I mean, it's a little scary, and it's kind of impressive the way it works. But the just the idea, it's kind of spooks me of having me speaking in my voice with my video and all that, of saying scripted things and all that. But it's that whole thing. I haven't been ready to go any further than just playing around with it, but it is something for somebody like you that just has a ton of content out there all the time, of something that it might be appealing.
Yeah, it would save a lot of time if we just have to upload scripts and my avatar just says that, and then I wouldn't have to record anything. That'd be great.
Then it's like having two of you at the
yeah. Which lots of people question if there are two of me, like if I have like a secret twin or something, but no, maybe we'll figure that one out.
Absolutely. And so I know, one thing that you're involved in, Ruby, is you do some teaching, and you do that at the University of Houston, correct?
Yeah, we just started this last week, and yeah, it's fun. I infuse a lot of technology when I teach this course. And usually I'm telling it to them straight, like the practice of law is going to be different by the time you get out of here. And but let's lean into the positive, and as long as you're paying attention and you're leveraging, you're learning and adapting, like I think you'll be able to land on your feet. But yeah, I teach law practice management. This will be my 7th semester to teach it, but I'm teaching at U of H Law this spring.
That's amazing. And Greg, I know you are a big part of what you do is speak to college students, and so you've seen that growth as well. And Ruby, since you've been doing this for 7 semesters, I'm kind of curious from both of your perspectives, what do you see as the difference between sort of this new crop, this new generation of lawyers versus where are they different? Are they the same? Like, have you noticed a big difference in millennial versus Gen Z new lawyers?
I think it's, from my perspective, I mean, a lot of the lawyers that I'm seeing going into the field in immigration right now it is somewhat of a different crop than 20, 25 years ago or more, in terms of sort of knowing what they're getting into. Ruby, when you and I started practicing, immigration law was pretty quiet.
Yeah.
It didn't change. It didn't change nearly as much as it changes now. Most presidents were pro-immigration. It was Congress that was usually the problem. And now I think with the ones that are going in are sort of, I think, primed for the fight more than they used to be. They go into it knowing that it is that the practice is going to be bumpy and a lot of people are going to have problems. So I think that's changed a little bit of the mindset of law students that are going into immigration. Lawyers in general, if anything, but maybe it's getting a little bit better, but probably not. But Ruby, you may see this as well. I really get excited when I talk to a young law student that is actually interested in being an entrepreneur and setting up their own practice, because it's sort of it's like a unicorn. They're all basically wanting to just go find a job as opposed to actually going. And I get it on there. You want mentoring, you want to have you get some experience somewhere else, but I'm glad you're teaching law practice management, and I'm glad that more schools seem to be incorporating that into their curriculum, but they never really push the idea that you don't have to have a job offer to be a lawyer. You can once you pass the bar and you have a law license, you are a lawyer. You can do whatever you want to do, as far as the going out and practicing. And I'd love to see more of courses that are in law schools that are designed to help lawyers actually get ready to open a business, as opposed to, yes, law practice. There's a lot of things in law practice management. If you're in a large firm or a small, working for somebody else, that you'd want to know. You want to know about marketing. You want to know about how to manage your matters and all of that. But I just would love to see, I still don't see it very often if somebody's like, I'm ready to go out and hang my own shingle as soon as I get my degree and I pass the bar and I get sworn in. That's something you rarely hear, and I'd love to see more of that.
I have so many thoughts about this. One is, I've been teaching law practice management at 2 different law schools over the last 7 semesters. And you're right. The one in my class of anywhere from 20 to 50, there's usually only one person, maybe 2 in a class that really truly is I'm going to go start my practice pretty darn soon after I graduate. And the rest of them are really timid. They're I don't know. We'll see how it lays out. I don't know if they're just afraid to say it in front of their peers or what the reason is. But so I agree with you. In terms of immigration, I think you're right. I feel like we have less of a pool going in because they see how rocky it is, bumpy, I think is what you said. And so usually I feel like that whittles down the people who are willing to go for the fight. But I do see this as an issue because we don't have as many in our pipeline. And locally, I'm working with the law schools and immigration and ALA to try to have, and the State Bar of Texas, to create these environments where the law students meet the private bar and the nonprofit, and we try to hook them up with opportunities, mentors, positions, and try to encourage more of the pipeline. So I would encourage those listening if you can want to do that in other parts of the country. I can give you sort of a playbook on how we've been doing that, and it's been working. But back to all practice areas, I think I've just realized the practice of law and the ability to adapt and utilize technology, I feel like are so essential, like simultaneously. And I mean, Greg and I are in that legal tech space, so we live in that space, so we just like think that's normal. But I feel like a lot of other people don't see the necessity and how much it needs to be a part of the practice of law. And then my other thought about this is that I think law practice management gets a bad rep. I don't think people know what it really is. They think it's just for people who want to have their own firm. But when I'm teaching this class, I'm talking to potential future partners, right-hand associates, people like that have the skill set that they could do whatever they want. I talk about business development, operations, HR, leadership, partnership track, marketing, digital marketing. And regardless of whether you want to have your own practice or not, these are essential tools that are in the practice of law. And so I've even noticed that when I was at TLTF with you, when I was talking to other academics and just in general from different perspectives, when you say law practice management, it's almost like you have to say the business of law, or you have to change the wording a little bit for people to sort of get what you're talking about. Because when some firms, some law schools produce big law attorneys, they think that this isn't necessary. This is more for solo and small. And I'm like, no. Let me help. Maybe I need to repackage this concept for people, but this is essential regardless of where you practice. And on one final thought, like I practiced for 1 year before I had my own firm. Back in 2009, I started. And what I tell my students is I want you to have the choice. I want you to have these tools in your toolkit so that if you need to start it, you can. If you don't want to, that's fine. But like you can do what you want and you don't have to stay in a position that you're not happy with.
Yeah, and I agree with all that. I will say with immigration, I mean, well, in law in general, I mean, there's a very sizable number of law students who graduate without a job. That is just the reality, and it's schools from top to bottom that there's percent. And for those students, they, a lot of them just basically like, I'm just going to have to give up my law aspirations, and they go find a job and do something in a different field altogether, which I think is really disappointing after for a lot of, if you've spent 3 years really to and you pass, or even if you don't, well, if you don't pass the bar, that's a different issue. But it's it shouldn't be seen as something that if I don't find a job initially, that it's that I failed and I have to go move out of law. And I'd love to see more people say it's like, if I don't find, not even just find a job, but find a job that I'm going to be happy with, that's going to advance my career, is necessary for me to go and work for somebody else. Otherwise, I'm going to figure out a way to do it on my own. And I know a lot of people say, well, I can't afford that. And I have lots of debts. And I'm here to say I was that person. When I started my practice, there were only like 2 law firms that were, maybe 3 solo immigration lawyers in Nashville when I was starting, and none of them offered me a job. And I wanted to be an immigration lawyer. I was actually at Big Law, but I was not happy in that. And I was going to basically be an immigration lawyer. I was going to quit law because I thought that was the only area of law that I would like. And I think it was probably true. So it was a matter of necessity, and it was a big financial sacrifice. And I had to defer on all my student loans, and I had to depend for a period of time on my wife's social worker salary. You can imagine how comfortable that was for the 2 of us. But if when there's a will, there's a way on it. And at this point in immigration law, there's a lot more demand for immigration lawyers than there are lawyers that are available. And I think this is actually a decent time for somebody to get into the practice, because there's a lot more people looking for legal help than can be provided for with the existing immigration law community. So if somebody wants to do it, they can do it. I think that the question is, do they do it smartly or not? Do they find mentors? Do they join, the AILA and other places where they can get the resources that they need? Are they investing in the technology that's going to make it a lot easier for them to compete in terms of the quality of the legal, the legal work product that they're producing? But their tools are out there, and the techniques are out there to succeed with it. And I'd like to see more people pursuing it.
And one of the best ways to do that, I think, is to read Ruby's book, "Power Up Your Practice." Right? I think that's
great book.
Bring it all back home for those young immigration lawyers who are looking to set up their own practice.
Greg even has a recommendation. He's a must read for any lawyer.
It's true. You're a really good writer, Ruby. That's why I love your books.
Well, I'm trying. How many books have you read? Written, Greg? Like, are you at like 10 or?
There are a lot, but they're not usually entertaining.
Oh.
I did a book for the ABA on 1996, the first edition, called The Lawyer's Guide to Marketing on the Internet. And I tried to make that a little more entertaining because it was on a tech topic. And I do have an AI book that's coming out that we're trying to make not so dry. But definitely can't compete with you in that department.
Oh, well, thanks, Greg. But you're a great mentor and friend, so I'm excited for your upcoming book.
Mm-hmm. As am I. And just as we close out here, just in case for anybody who's listening or watching, you do have the chance, if you want to leave a question, I'll give you a couple minutes to do that. You can send in a comment and we'll answer that here at the end. Also want to point out that Visa Law is putting on a how law firms use legal research with Visa Law AI. So if you're interested in that webinar, that is happening tomorrow at 12 o'clock. You can scan this, register for that, and you'll get that sent to your email, even if you can't watch it in real time. But just want to highlight that for anybody who is coming off of this conversation and are interested in what's happening with the intersection of legal technology and increasing efficiency. You'll have the chance to see what the Visa Law product does if you're interested in seeing that in a testing space. And so as we close out here, Ruby, I am interested. You mentioned that as people like us who are sort of in the space, in the legal tech space, we do have sort of maybe a blind spot to what, say, somebody who's just really interested in practicing immigration law, where they are, where they're sort of meeting technology at. And so I guess my final question is, what is maybe the most outsized impact somebody could have on their practice? What is the one thing, if they could walk away from today, that you would advise them to do to make their life easier as an immigration lawyer, to improve their practice, to improve their quality of life? What would be one easy way to incorporate either technology or to utilize technology that would be really effective for somebody?
Well, I sort of tell them to break down the processes of a firm into the different functions, and then look for AI or technology tools to eliminate the time needed or to make the lives easier in those different spaces. One of the ones that's impacted me directly is sort of the tools I'm using for note-taking in a consultation, and then the subsequent post-consultation notes. Leveraging technology and AI on that has increased my customer service and my note taking and me building a connection with my client. So that's one that it's helped me. But everything from just more automations or online scheduling, maybe for on the front end, or to let's see, drafting and researching, which I know Visa Law AI has a lot of great tools for that. And so I think you really just have to do a quick audit of where do you spend a lot of time, that there could be a tool that could eliminate that time that you spend on that and can help you. And so one of the ones that's directly impacted me and made my life easier is my note taking and my post consult notes. And I think that it's not like you just set it and forget it, because that doesn't exist. Like, you have to keep evaluating, and there's new tools and there's new ways to use the tool, and the tools are always improving. And so it's sort of hard to give one example, but I think it just depends on where you are and how much you've been doing it already. But maybe just find one area that you can get your biggest return on investment, experiment and improve, and then move on to another area. And if you have a team that can help you, maybe you could be doing multiple areas at the same time, and creating like a committee or something along those lines. Or if you don't have a person completely dedicated to it in your office, to keep giving you suggestions and having those dialogues with the vendors to or do the research. And I will have to say that I have to plug ABA Tech Show because it's the last week of March, and you can just go to techshow.com, but it's March 25th to 28th, 2026 at the Hyatt Regency McCormick Place in Chicago. And it's only 58 days away, according to the counter on our website. But
I will be attending.
You will?
Yes, I will.
Yes, you should be. Of course you will be, Greg. And I will as well. And so if anyone's coming, feel free to find us or let us connect with us. And the exhibit hall is filled with amazing different vendors and sponsors. And it's just great to it's case management software agnostic. So the exhibit hall is really filled, and you can really do a lot of demos and sort of see a big picture of what's going on in this space. And we've got some really good tracks coming out, and some keynotes as well. So I'm excited.
So there's always a decent attendance from immigration lawyers. I mean, I used to be like many years ago, it was like I felt like I was the only immigration lawyer, or maybe me and Jeff DeVore. But now there's usually a nice crowd. You've been going obviously for a bunch of years, Ruby, and you run the thing. But
I hope with it.
It would be good if more immigration lawyers attended that event. It's really helpful for your practice.
Yeah, Charity and I are on the board, and I'm the co-vice chair. So after that week in March, I am a co-chair. So.
Yeah. And where else can we find Ruby? When's the next podcast? Where can people meet you?
Well, I Power Up Your Practice, same name as the book, we have a podcast, and we drop a new episode every week. Tomorrow we're going to have one from Kevin Block, actually a fellow immigration attorney, and he's going to talk about it's a part of my resilience series. I'm really excited. I just started that. But every Tuesday we have a new episode under Power Up Your Practice, and then you can find me on LinkedIn, Ruby Powers, and then from there you can find other stuff. We have the Power Up Your Practice website, and the book is available on Amazon or Ayla, called Power Up Your Practice. Thanks, Ian.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Ruby, and Greg. Thank you for taking some time out of your day. And again, I think this was a really fantastic conversation. Hopefully people can find some things that they can take with them to improve their practice, power up their practice, and all of that stuff. So we'll see you guys again here in 2 weeks, next Monday for our next conversation. And we're excited for that. And again, thank you, Ruby, and thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Ruby.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Ian. Good to see you.
Thanks, Ian.